The problem is, though, it's not just what we do there in other parts of the world. These things are all totally connected to each other. What we do at home sets an example, makes us an example for good or bad. You know, what we do overseas will be watched by the rest of the world. It does demonstrate our commitment to humanity. But they're also going to watch what we're doing here. We're in the spotlight all the time. So, what kind of example should we set? Climate change, global warming. This is an emergency. This is not an issue for the future. If you were to read the Pentagon's report analysis of what could happen if the temperature on the Earth goes up 3 to 8 degrees over the next 75 years, it's frightening. Talking about migration of hundreds of millions of people, political upheaval, not enough food, not enough water. This is something America should be leading on. So what are we doing? We're 4% of the world's population. We emit 25% of the world's greenhouse gases. Almost a quarter. We have to change that. We have to be an example. How do we go to China and India? We need to clean up our own house. We use 22 million barrels of oil a day. 12 million of those barrels are imported. We're the largest consumer of oil on the planet. It has to change. Here are the things that I believe we should do to set an example and to give us credibility and go with the rest of the world. First, we need a serious national investment in clean, renewable alternative sources of energy. Wind, solar, biofuels. Second, I think the President of the United States should ask Americans to be patriotic about something other than war. Ask Americans to conserve in our office buildings, in our factories, at home. We should drive more fuel-efficient vehicles. We have to be willing to do these things because it's important to America. It's important to America's strength. I also, and this is a more radical idea, but I think it's required under the circumstances, I think we ought to put a national cap on carbon dioxide emissions, and I think we ought to ratchet that so that we can be an example for good for the rest of the world. We have a dysfunctional healthcare system in America. By any measure, we have 47 million Americans who don't have health care coverage. Health care premiums have gone up 90% in the last 6 years. Even if you've got coverage, you're worried about losing it. In many cases, mental health is not covered. Preventative care is not covered. Chronic care is not covered. Long-term care is not covered. And people are terrified because they're locked into their job. They can't change jobs, because they're worried they may lose their health care coverage. They're worried, among other things, about the issues like pre-existing conditions. This has to change. I am proud of the fact that I am, as of this moment, the only candidate for president, Democratic or Republican, who's laid out a substantive, specific, truly universal health care plan. I hope someone will ask me about it because I can bore you to tears with it. But it is something I'm very proud of and I care deeply about. And then finally, I want to say a word about the growing disparity between the rich and everybody else in this country. When the bureaucrats in Washington like to say that the economy's growing, it's true. There has been economic growth. The problem is, it's all for people who have a lot of money or multinational corporations. Yeah. Ordinary Americans' situation's not getting better, it's getting worse. Wages are stagnant, they're not going up. And the cost of everything that most Americans spend money on is going up every single day. Gasoline, health care, something you'll understand here, college tuition. Yeah. We have got to strengthen and grow the middle class in this country. I don't know about you, I don't want to live in an America made up of a few rich people and everybody else. I don't. In the last campaign, I talked about the two Americas, one for those who have everything, and then one for everybody else. It's is a more powerful concept today than it was several years ago. It is a bigger issue today than it was several years ago. And we have to take action. Universal health care helps, but we also have to lift millions of Americans who wake up every single day in poverty, out of poverty. We cannot stand by, because it says something about the character of America. How we treat men and women who are part of our American family, who wake up every day worried literally about survival. It's not okay. It's not okay. And we have to do something about it. Those pictures that came out of New Orleans, and I've been to New Orleans several times since the hurricane hit. I announced my campaign for the presidency in the 9th Ward of New Orleans. Those pictures, we're not the only ones that saw those pictures. The whole world saw them. And the world wants to know what we're going to do about it. We're the most prosperous nation on the planet. How can there be those pictures that came out of the 9th Ward of New Orleans? How can there be 37 million people who live in this country and wake up every day literally worried about survival? We're better than this. The United States of America is better than this.